Hey guys, if your Mazda Tribute, Ford Escape, or I think Mercury Mariner is the same thing. But anyway, mine's a 2006, but this is a pretty standard brake configuration. If your emergency brake is dragging, so for example you turn it off and it keeps scraping and scraping and you keep trying to release it and it won't release, here's what typically the problem is. So this is the new part. When I get on the car and take it all apart, I'll show you the old one. But basically this is the backing plate behind the brakes, okay, in your rear brakes. And the parking brakes sit here. And what happens is they get corroded, okay? And then right here, behind your brakes, there's two little holes here, and I'll zoom in to show you. But they're like in the shape of a rectangle. And they're like that for a reason. It's because the pin that goes through and holds your brakes on, your emergency brake pads anyway, it's like a hook and it goes through and then you turn it parallel to that and it doesn't come out. So I just ordered all new brake hardware. I'll put the part numbers for everything in the description, but these are Dorman aftermarket brake pad shields, and what's cool about them is normally you would have to take off the hub assembly and everything in order to put them on, but these ones come in two pieces. So plan here is to cut the old ones off with a pair of wire snips, probably through here or something, get them off, and then put these ones on, and then I'll be able to use the clips. So I ordered a whole new hardware set. It was super cheap. It was like 20 bucks and you get all the new parts for your emergency brakes. Okay, so the part we're going to talk about right now are these guys. Let's see if I can get a good look here. I don't know if you can see that, but the end is rectangle, but from the side it's like a key, okay? So it goes in the hole here, you turn it, and it locks your brakes in place. But what happens is this all gets corroded, and mine looks like a circle. So it no longer holds the emergency brake shoes in place. So what I did as a temporary fix is I put a nut and bolt through here to hold the brakes in place. But that's not really the right way to do it. This is the right way to fix it up. So my plan here is to do the one side, and if that goes smoothly, I will film the second side for you guys and show you how to do it. Okay, so started here on the first side. We'll see how this goes. I may have to switch the video to the other side. I'm going to dispense with jacking up the car and supporting it and taking the tire off. Hopefully you know how to do that. So what next step is here is we need to remove the calipers. So in order to do that, sorry for the shaky camera, we're going to remove these two caliper bolts here. There's like a cap. Whoops, sorry. Take the cap off. It's my first time doing a video, so please bear with me. Okay, so take the second cap off. And then there's two Allen keys that go in here. Take them out. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that and then get you back with the next step of removing the caliper. Now that the caliper bolts are loose, what I'm going to do here is release the caliper. So I normally like to get in there with a screwdriver. I'm going to try my best. Hopefully I can light this for you. Okay. So be careful. Do not touch your pads when you're in here, okay? But you can push sort of between the rotor, probably between the rotor and the edge of the, just gently, of your brake pad here. Not the brake pad, but the what holds it in there. Just ever so gently, okay? And that should give you enough room to hopefully take this guy off here, okay? I think I need a little bit more. It also looks like my caliper bolt might not be out all the way. So if that happens, you can get in here, see the caliper bolt? and just give it a little more of a pry. Same thing on the bottom, and it's starting to come loose here. I think my caliper bolt's just a little bit stuck on the bottom as well. So I'm gonna work on that. What sometimes works is you get your Allen key in here like this. Whoop, let's see if I can show you here. Into the caliper here, and I just kind of sort of jiggle it and pull at the same time, and there we go. Now I got it out. I think I'm probably having the same issue with the bottom one. Okay, and I'm gonna just sort of hold on to it and wiggle. Okay, I think that's out far enough now. So let's see if we can get this off now. It's hard to do it with one hand holding the camera. Okay, so it looks like I'm probably gonna get this out. Okay, so you want to be careful not to stress your brake line, and it's probably a good time to check it. These cars are notorious for having like the factory brake lines burst. So if you haven't changed them, now it's a good time to double check. I normally just let it sit up here, but in this case, since I'm taking this backing plate off here, I'm gonna have to strap it up. So here's the backing plate in place that we're gonna replace, and this is the one that's the problem here. Okay, it's rusted on the back, and we're gonna remove it. So I'm just gonna strap up the caliper bolts, and then the next step is we're gonna work on taking off the rotor. So I've got my caliper all tied up, and I'm gonna take off the rotor. So luckily last year when I changed the brakes, I put on anti-seize on the inside, so it looks like this is gonna come off. It's super easy, just with one hand. Okay, so as you can see, I put anti-seize all in here, and that's how easy it comes off if you do that. Otherwise it can be a problem. So let's have a look here at what's going on. Okay, so there's your brakes behind the hub there. Okay, and what happens is that pin right there, I'm gonna try and light this at the same time, but this pin, hopefully you can see that, not when my finger's in the way I guess, but let me try that again. This pin, okay, it goes through around to the back, and you're not going to be able to see it from the back, but it locks into that dust shield that I showed you earlier. Okay, and the problem is that it's rusted out in the back and it won't hold anymore. So we're going to have to remove this dust shield, but first of all we're going to have to remove the brakes. This is my first time doing it, so wish me luck, and you can follow along. Okay, so here's my plan of attack. The instructions say step 1, remove the upper return spring, which is this guy right here. My plan is to just pry that out with a screwdriver. Step 2, remove the spring bolts on both sides, and this one is my modified bolt that I put in because it's rusted out. Okay, and then step 3, there's one more spring. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see here. It's kind of hard to see back in there, but there's one spring at the bottom. Okay, so if you remove all those, your brake shoes should come off. So I'm going to try my best here. If I can film stuff while I'm doing it, I will. But it looks like I'm going to need 2 hands, so I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so I have removed the pins first. It says remove the spring first, but I'm having difficulty with that. So I took the pins out, and you can see what happens when you take the pins out. The whole thing moves, okay? And that's why your brakes are dragging, because these pins here are no longer, here and here are no longer holding, because they're rusted out. Okay, so I took that off. Now I think I might, since there's less tension, I think I might have more luck getting the spring off. So I've tried with a screwdriver. It's a little bit difficult. I'm going to try with a screwdriver and a pair of long nose pliers and kind of pry at it and see if I can get it off. I think once I get the one off, the other should be easy. Okay, success here. So I had the most luck coming up from underneath where the spring was, and then prying this way with it, and it popped off both sides. So that one, that's good. It's down inside at this point. I'm going to work on the bottom one right now and report back on the progress. To take off the shoes without taking off this bottom spring here. I will replace this with all new hardware, but just be aware when you're putting it back together, this one is the top spring, and the bigger one is the bottom spring. Okay, and this is your adjuster here. You can turn this when you put it all back together, up and down with a screwdriver, and it will move in and out in order to make your brake pads like either closer to the inside of the rotor or smaller so that they don't drag. So basically you want it, when you put your rotor on top, you want to have it to just not touching so that when you put on the brakes, you can do it. So this is the adjuster here. Now, in my case, I don't have a hole at the back. Most of them have a hole at the back where you can get at this adjuster with a screwdriver. The new ones have that, which is cool, because last time, which kind of caused this whole problem, is that I had to, if you can see here, kind of smash off my rotors because they were stuck, and that ripped the pin through. So that kind of caused the major problem in the first place. I don't know if you can see that, but there's my hole here. You can see it's all corroded and destroyed. And that's the root cause of this whole problem here. Okay, so we are going to, next step is this guy at the top here that holds your brake line in place, this one here. Okay, we got to take that out through the back, and then we should be able to cut the rotors off, or cut the backing plate off. Oh, and then we have to remove these 4 bolts here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, that hold the plate on. Okay, they're an Allen key. I think they are an 8. Somebody told me. I'm going to try that in a minute. But the other thing is, tip I was given, is that you may have to cut a little bit off the end of your Allen key in order to fit it in there, because you can see it's kind of a tight fit. So anyway, I'm going to work on getting those bolts out next and see what happens. Well, you can see this here, but the next step is, this is your brake cable, and it is on these guys here, okay? And if once it's loose, you can kind of pry it from the back, and it takes a bit of shimmying, but you can get it off. Okay, so so here's another shot of this part. Mine is not in the best condition, but I'm going to coat it with some penetrating oil and clean it up, and hopefully it'll be okay. This is a dealer part if you need it. A gentleman shared the part number with me. I'm going to put that in the comments down below as well if you need one. Okay, so it actually goes in through the backing plate and goes in that way. It's a little bit of a jiggle to get out from the hub, but if you kind of come out this way with it and in this way, you can get it out. Okay, and it goes that way. Okay, so you know, not that way, it goes that way. Okay, hopefully you can see there. So I put some PB Blaster in there, and I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, but while that's soaking, I'm going to show you. So I cut off just a little bit of the Allen key, maybe, I don't know, 1/4 inch. So now I can get it in there. Okay, so there we go. It's in. So now I can start. I think I'm going to get some kind of bar or something on here so I can get some leverage on this to get it out. I'm gonna smash my hands if I try it with that, but anyway, it's in there. And so next step is to get these 4 bolts out. So I'm going to try with a pole here in a second and let you know how it goes. Okay, thought I'd give you a little shot of what I'm doing here because it works so well. So I got my Allen key in. I just got a little piece of copper pipe here that I cut off. So I'm just putting that on the end of the Allen key, and there we go. It's loose. Hopefully at this point I can even move it with my hand. Okay, so that wasn't as hard as I thought. I thought these might be seized in there real bad. But it looks like with a little bit of ingenuity we have success. So there we go, there's one out. I got 3 more to go. I'll check back in when I got them all out. The place to cut them was right through here, and you'll see where it meets up with that hole there. That's the easiest place to cut it. So now I can presumably, I got a little more cutting to do. But anyway, I'm getting there. Okay, so I'm approaching the point of no return here. I'm gonna have to cut this in a second, but I wiggled it and jiggled it, and you can now see it's totally loose. Okay, so my plan is to just cut it with some snips right through here, and I can take it off and put the new one on. Gonna just wait a few minutes and do that, and hopefully I'll show you what it looks like when it's all off. Okay everyone, so we've got success here. I cut through this top corner here all the way through, which seemed to be like the shortest path, and then I was just able to like kind of almost bend it and rip it off. So here's what we're left with. I'm gonna maybe just clean that up with a wire brush a little bit, and next step I'm gonna put on the new backing plate. Okay, so see you in the next step. Okay, while I'm waiting for my rechargeable light to charge so that I can show you the rest of the steps here, I took this, and instead of buying a new one, it's a dealer part, and I'm sure it's going to be expensive and take forever to get. So mine's not in too bad condition, but I took it, it was seized, so it was like stuck like this. Okay, so this is what actuates the brakes when the what do you call it, brake lever pulls. It pulls that and pushes the brakes apart. Okay, so you want that to move freely. So I took it apart. You can just sort of slide it this way, and then this sort of just pops out of there. Anyway, I took it apart, put a lot of penetrating oil on it, gave it a good brush with a wire brush, and as you can see, it now, you know, moves freely. This is able to move no problem. Okay, and this should be able to move. Okay, so now when I put that back in, hopefully my brakes are going to be like brand new, because this part is going to move freely like it's supposed to. And of course I'm going to grease that up with brake grease and everything before I stick it back in. But just one additional step there. While you're at it, you may as well clean it up, or if you want, you can buy a new one. But mine, I think, they're not the best shape in the world, but they should be like this silver color. So they are pretty corroded, but I think I can salvage it, and it seems to work just by cleaning it up. Okay, so while I'm in here, I took a wire brush, cleaned up in here as much as I could, and then your brake, it's hard to do this while looking through the camera, but your brake pads slide on this thing here. So it took some time to clean that up while I'm at it, and your bottom one slides on here. Took some time to clean all that up with a wire brush while I'm in here anyway. And I'm gonna, when I put the brakes back together, I'm gonna grease all that up properly with brake grease. So while I'm at it, I'm getting a brake refurbish at the same time. Okay. The other good thing is while you're here, check your wheel bearing while you've got all this stuff off. And mine sounds good. No grinding noise. If you hear a grinding noise or anything like that, or this moves back and forth or anything, you probably need a new bearing. But anyway, I'm all good. Cleaned everything up here. I mean, it's not perfect. It's a 14-year-old car, but I cleaned all the surfaces up as best I could. The wire brush. I'm going to put it all back together, and I'm going to show you how the brake shields fit in a second. Okay, so I got the backing shields. I'm going to try and do this with one hand so I can show you, but they come in 2 pieces, so it's really nice and easy. Just fits over there. So far, so good. That's the top one in. And then the bottom one is just going to fit down on here. Hopefully it does. Yeah, looks like it's going to. There we go. Fit down like that. And then all I have to do is put my bolts in. So I'm going to put the bolts in, next step, and show you where we're at. Okay, so one thing I like to do with bolts, if I'm going to ever have to take them out again, which I may, is I'm going to put just a little bit of anti-seize on these guys, not a whole lot. Just a little bit before I put them in. Now normally with brake bolts and stuff like that, you want to put, you want to go the other way, you want to put the Loctite stuff on it. But I mean, in this case, you know, there's nowhere where the bolt's going to go. It's in there and it's only holding on the backing plate sort of thing. So I'm not super worried about it like popping out or anything. But the Loctite will help me get it out if I ever have to get it out again. So anyway, that's just a good step here. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so there's the finished product. Sorry, I got some anti-seize on there. They look really nice. They fit pretty well. The spacing here where the split is I mean, you can see it, but it's not too bad. If I was a welder, I might just touch that there and weld it together. But either way, the bolts hold it on. I didn't go too tight because, well, I might ever want to take them off again. So the next thing to do is put this guy in. Now remember, he goes in that way. Oops. Underneath here and inside, okay? It's easier if you can kind of get it from the side and it goes through. But before I do that, I'm gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on this guy, kind of all the way around. I don't want to have the same problem. This anti-seize is high temperature, so it should, if there's any issues with the brake temperature, it should be okay. I'm gonna dab it all on there and hopefully I don't get it all over myself when I put it back. Okay, so now that should stop that from seizing up in the future. Maybe another little dab on this side here. Okay, that's lots of anti-seize, but anyway, it should that should suffice. Okay, so the easiest way to do this here, if I can do it with holding a camera, is kind of from this side, and you kind of, it's like a rubber, there we go, it's in. Okay, so that's in there, and now hopefully I'll get my light charged up here in a minute and I'll show you around the back. I got to just clip the emergency brake cable back onto there, and then that should be good. And then the next step is going to be to refurbish my brakes with all the new parts. I've never done that before either, so that's a bit of a challenge. All right. Okay, so in hindsight, I probably should have ordered some new brake shoes because mine are terrible. But they'll do the job. There's lots of shoe left. They're just kind of rusty. So here's all the old parts. So here's the adjustment. Here's the lower spring, and here's the upper spring. Okay, so here's my new parts. Okay, so I've got the upper spring, the lower spring. I've got these two pins. Maybe I can show you a little better now. So see how it goes in, and then you turn it this way and it locks. So when you put this together, it goes in this hole here, this way. Oh, and hopefully it fits. Okay, goes in the hole. Try the other one. Goes in the hole. I might have to make some adjustments here because it looks like it's a tight fit. But anyway, it goes in and it turns and it locks. It goes in and it's supposed to turn and it locks. Anyway, it looks like I'm going to have to make some adjustments because it doesn't fit super easily like the old ones. But I'm sure this is going to fit much better. Anyway, so let's get back to the brakes here. Okay, so I need to put this together. This goes through here like that. So before I do that, I'm gonna grease this guy up with some anti-seize, so in the future it doesn't seize. And then he's gonna screw in there like that. And then this guy goes on top of here, like that. Okay, that goes on. Whoops. It's hard to do this with one hand. Anyway, it ends up looking like that when it's done. This goes in this side, this goes in that side, and it adjusts as you turn it with a screwdriver here, these splines. It adjusts this in and out, like that, okay? So I'm gonna work on reassembling this whole thing back the way it was, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's back on the car. Okay guys, 2 hours later, got it back together. Okay, I could probably do the next one in like 15 minutes. But, okay, so here's the trick. So first, I tried putting the bottom spring in, and then the bottom adjuster, and then like pulling them out and putting it on, and then trying to get this spring in place, and then these fitted. Okay, because I thought it would be easier. But this spring on the top is so under pressure, it's just impossible to stretch it to here. Okay, so with a pair of long nose pliers. So what I did was, first of all, I took out the pins, I took out the spring from the bottom, okay, and then I put in the spring in here and here, okay, and I sort of pulled, oops, sorry, I sort of pulled like a butterfly, like pulled them in this way, okay, and then I put one side in, okay, and then I pulled the other brake shoe like this, and I was able to sort of get it back in here and use the whole brake shoe for leverage in order to stretch that spring out and get it in the top, okay? So that's the first part. Once you do it once, it's super easy to do it again because I popped it out once. But, okay, so first step is get the spring in, do the top, pop the top in. I wish I could show you how I do it, but there's no way I can do it with one hand while holding the camera. Okay, so get the two in like a butterfly or like a clam, if you will, like pull it out this way, put one side in, and then grab the other side and sort of pull it in to the hole where it goes here. Okay, so then you got the top in. Okay, so the next thing I did was I put one holder spring in the side, okay, not the other one, because I still want some movement. Okay, then I came down to the bottom, and then I put in the adjuster, okay, and then there's another spring there. It's kind of hard to see, but this spring isn't under as much tension, so it's easier to pull this one in with a pair of long nose pliers. So just to recap, step one, put this spring in, fold it like a clam, okay, get one side in, and then use the whole brake shoe as kind of a lever to pull it back in. And I think I needed a screwdriver at the same time to kind of push this out while I was pushing this in that way. And then that's the hard part. Once that's in, the rest is pretty straightforward. Put one pin in on this side. This one's easier to see because it's got light behind it. Okay, leave this one out till last. Put your adjuster in, and then put your last spring in, and then everything's held together, and you can move it around a little bit and adjust it, and then put in your last brake shoe spring here. Okay, and that's it all back together. I'm just going to test it with the the emergency brake, make sure it actually does go in and out, and then I'm going to put my rotor back on and just make sure it does freeze the rotor when the emergency brake is on and doesn't rub, and then put it all back together. So the point of this was to show you how to do this guy, not a whole brake job. So but basically I'm going to grease up these surfaces here. I did grease up the back surfaces with brake lubricant on the back where it touches. Okay, I'm going to spray the shoes down with brake clean before I put it all back together because my hands have been all over it. I'm going to grease up these here, grease up these here, put the caliper back on, and put it all back together the way I took it apart. So anyway, that's it. The hardest part was just figuring out how to get the brake shoes back on. I'm sure there's some kind of special tool. I don't have one, but with a pair of long nose pliers, that was the easiest way to do it. Hope that helps somebody out.